Hello Internet, welcome back to Tech Tactics. Today we're taking a trip down memory lane with a true classic, the XFX AMD Radeon RX 580 GTS XXX Edition GPU. Originally released in 2017, this GPU was a beast in its prime, going toe-to-toe with Nvidia's 1060. Now, fast forward to today, and the big question is, can the AMD RX 580 still game in 2025? Or is it finally time to hang it up? To find out, we've paired it with a high-end setup featuring an Intel i9-13900K CPU and 64GB of DDR5 RAM. Let's see what this old warrior can still do. But before we dive in, here's a quick shout out to today's sponsor. If you're hunting for great deals on game keys and software, G2A.com, where you can find discounts on all the keys you need. Meet the AMD XFX Radeon RX 580 GTS XXX Edition, a card that debuted as part of AMD's Polaris architecture. At its core, the RX 580 packs 8GB of GDDR5 VRAM on a 256-bit interface, delivering a total bandwidth of 256 gigabits per second. With 2,304 stream processors and 32 ROPs, it's well equipped to handle a good number of today's titles at 1080p, typically at medium to high settings. With a TDP of 185 watts, the RX 580 also features a boost clock of up to 1386 MHz and supports modern APIs like DirectX 12, Vulkan and OpenCL, ensuring broad compatibility with a wide range of games and applications. In terms of connectivity, the card includes 3 Display 1.4 outputs, 1 HDMI 2.0B port, and a dual-link DVI-D connector, enabling support for up to 6 displays and ensuring compatibility with older DVI-D monitors. Now let's take a look at some benchmarks to see how this GPU performs in a few games. Let's dive in. Starting off with Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 running at 1080p and on the medium graphics setting with motion blur and depth of field disabled. AMD FSR 3.1 is set to balanced, upscaling from 720p, and despite the upscaling, the visuals are stunning. The historical accuracy of this game brings medieval Bohemia to life. By Warhorse Studios, the same Czech team behind the original, the sequel makes significant improvements across the board. Graphics, gameplay and performance are even more impressive. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 runs surprisingly well. The RX 580 pulls a maximum of 150 watts. VRAM is maxed out, and while the card runs hot at 80 degrees, it doesn't seem to impact the performance, and the frame time graph remains exceptionally smooth. The game averages 60 FPS, with 1% lows at 49 FPS and 0.1% lows at 44 FPS. Now moving on to Borderlands 3, running natively at 1080p with high graphics settings. Motion blur is turned off and using the DirectX 12 API. With Borderlands 4 scheduled for release, excitement is building as it promises major upgrades. Those include a completely redesigned loot and progression system aimed at making gameplay more rewarding. Borderlands 4 will be this time using Unreal Engine 5, which will more likely come with stutters included. Additionally, the developers promise to enhance the multiplayer experience through improved matchmaking, new co-op features and a wider variety of online modes designed to encourage teamwork and increase replay ability. With that in mind, I figured now is the ideal moment to revisit Borderlands 3, a game I never quite finished. In terms of performance, Borderlands 3 runs at an average frame rate of 53 FPS, with 1% low of 44 FPS and a 0.1% low of 29 FPS. Next up is Company of Heroes 3 at 1080p resolution with high graphics settings, and AMD FSR 2 set to balanced. Known for its tactical complexity, destructive environments and historical authenticity, the Company of Heroes series keeps pushing forward. The latest installment brings more dynamic battlefields, improved AI and deeper strategic choices. It offers a compelling experience that honours veteran players while remaining appealing to newcomers. Now, regarding the GPU, despite its age, the RX 580 remains surprisingly available. You can typically find a used RX 580 on eBay Marketplace for around £60, which is approximately $80. With that said, it's important to set realistic expectations. While the RX 580 has aged well, it does come with limitations, especially when compared to modern GPUs. In 2025, it's no longer a powerhouse, but it can still hold its own in many titles with the right settings. In Company of Heroes 3, the RX 580 delivers an average of 62 FPS and a 1% low of 45 FPS and a 0.1% low of 40 FPS. The next game is Cyberpunk 2077, running at 1080p resolution with high graphics settings. Motion blur and depth of field are disabled, AMD FSR 3.0 is set to balanced, and AMD frame generation is enabled. When it comes to content creators, rendering performance plays a big role, and while the RX 580 isn't the most powerful GPU, it still performs surprisingly well for entry-level creators. It handles large video files, 1080p timelines, and even light 4K editing. Whether you're using Adobe Premiere Pro or DaVinci Resolve, the RX 580 delivers enough power to keep workflows running smoothly. It strikes a good balance between affordability and performance, making it a reliable choice for YouTube videos and social media content. The RX 580 proves you don't need a high-end workstation to start creating professional quality content. In Cyberpunk 2077, the RX 580 manages an average of 97 FPS, with 1% lows at 70 FPS and 0.1% lows at 54 FPS. The next game is Helldivers 2, running at native 1080p resolution with low graphics settings. Both motion blur and depth of field are disabled yet again. Compared to new graphics cards, the RX 580 lacks many modern features, such as ray tracing and DLSS upscaling. While AMD offers its own upscaling technology called FSR, Nvidia's DLSS generally delivers superior performance and image quality. One of the biggest limitations of the RX 580 is its power efficiency. Built on an older architecture, it lacks the energy-saving advancements found in modern GPUs. As a result, it runs hotter and draws much more power, something to consider if you're conscious of energy usage. In terms of performance, in Helldivers 2, the RX 580 averages 56 FPS, with 1% lows around 37 FPS and 0.1% lows dipping to 34 FPS. The final game is Fortnite, set to a native 1080p resolution with low graphics settings. Both motion blur and depth of field are turned off, and the game is using the DirectX 12 API, which appears to perform slightly better than DirectX 11. With TAA anti-aliasing enabled, the RX 580 averages 164 FPS, with a 1% low of 120 FPS and a 0.1% low of 58 FPS. That's impressive performance for a graphics card that's nearly a decade old. So, can the AMD RX 580 still game in 2025? Absolutely yes indeed. The 580 has some limitations with modern gaming due to its older architecture, but it does use AMD's FSR upscaling technology, which helps squeeze extra performance that has extended this GPU's life. For content creators, the RX 580 is a reliable option due to its ample VRAM and strong compatibility. It handles video editing efficiently, rendering a 1-minute clip in Resolve in just 45 seconds. Overall, the RX 580 offers a solid performance at an affordable price. That's all for this video. If you enjoyed the content or just like the sound of my voice, please hit like and subscribe for more tech tactics stuff. I'm David James and I'll see you in the next one.